I can sum up 90% of what you need to know to be a world-class copywriter in 4 words. And I learned these 4 words from Jeffrey Lant, who I was introduced to by Jerry Ballinger. And this is what's so exciting about going through these journals, is popping out and seeing the genesis of when certain things happen. Because I know there's a long trajectory of impact that learning what I learned from Jeffrey Lant has had. So much so that Eben Pagan and I used to call each other up and just quote from Jeffrey Lant's book, Cash Copy. Now, the 4 words that Jeffrey talks about is everything about copywriting comes down to these 4 words. You, get, benefit, now. If every other word that you write does not fit firmly under one of those pillars of you, get, benefit, now, you're going down the wrong path. And that's one of the tricks that I use now, like looking at people's copy, looking at the way people write things, and you start to see that the focus of it is about them. And you start to see anytime an ad starts off, we are the leaders in this, or we know this, or we've spent our whole life doing this. No one cares about that. In fact, in Jeffrey's book, Cash Copy, he has a beginning section, which is 23 egregious errors that copywriters make. And that's what Eben and I would call up and quote each other. And one of the errors is you think your prospect cares as much as you do about you and your product. That's the mistake. And then he goes on to describe it. And we would read certain portions of this. If you can imagine Samuel Jackson not Samuel Jackson. It's Sam Jackson in Pulp Fiction. This scene where he's quoting the Bible. Well, we would call each other up and talk about Jeffrey's egregious error. And he would say that, of course you believe that your product is wonderful and that you are wonderful for having created it. You may be the kind of person that mothers love and dogs take kind to. But take your wonder silently, clandestinely, or gather with other such wonder workers in private and beat the collective drums of hubris, and then get back to the one thing that matters, your prospect. And if you just think and take that in, that if everything you're writing is speaking about them, and if I think about one of the greatest, probably the first really masterful piece of copy that I wrote. I mean, aside from the Guide to Halton Hills and all the things that I had done in real estate up to that point, it wasn't brilliant copy. It was great. It was great marketing framework, understanding what people want. They want to know about homes in another area. It's not about that I wrote masterful copy to get that. Copy was great. But I wrote a letter, and we'll hear about it in future journals. I wrote a book and a letter with a marriage counselor in Texas called Stop Your Divorce. And I really took this thing about thinking only about your prospects. I mean, if you look at the headline of Stop Your Divorce, which is still up, by the way, at stopyourdivorce.com, still sells every month. We've got people who are going there and buying that book, but we've sold over $5 million worth of that book with one sales letter that hasn't changed since I wrote it in 1998. Now, the headline of that is, and the opening of the letter follows completely this idea of you get benefit now. Stop your divorce or lover's rejection even if your situation seems hopeless and you're the only one who wants to stop it. And the letter starts out, write all about them, not about Homer or McDonald. It starts, of course you want to stop your divorce. You jump right into and only about what your prospect wants. And so if you can think outwardly, think about communicating what it is that you're offering. This is why I rank these cornerstones in this order. When you understand behavioral psychology, and then you understand models of how you're going to apply these things, we're at the point now where we're activating it with how do you communicate it. I'm using the word copywriting, but it's really about communicating your message in a way that people will take action. That's really what you're doing, is you're communicating your message in a way that takes a transformational action or gets people to do something in their best interest. That's really, if you come down to it, that everything you're doing is for the benefit of other people, that you're helping them. It's kind of that Zig Ziglar idea of you can get anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And when you think behavioral psychology way, you realize that the most reliable thing that we know about humans is that we are wired to act in our self-interest, to seek our own self-preservation and our own advancement. And if you can get in alignment with that jet stream of what people are already thinking about, what they already want to do, and you can communicate it in a way that is conversational and, speaking only to them, that's the you part of this, and speaking about not what you've got, not the features of your products, not the things or the effort that you went into do it, but you think about what they're going to get in this. And one of the great exercises that I do when I'm looking at copy is I'll take it and I ask people, let's look at it, and we'll take away all the adjectives and the adverbs, and we'll look just at the nouns and the verbs. What's happening here? How much of your copy, when people usually write flowery words or write things that sound copy-esque, they're not saying anything real. They're not saying stop your divorce. It's completely, it's an amazing switch that you flip when you start thinking about it. One of my most popular books is a book called Get More Leads: How to Choose the Words That Get You All the Leads You Want. Pretty amazing, right? But it's 100% focused on you get benefit now. So when you look at your ad copy, you look at the letters or messages or your website, and you filter it through that lens, ask yourself those questions. Is this focused, if I'm looking at it from the point of view of my prospect? Is this the way that they would want to be introduced to this message? So that core book, Cash Copy by Jeffrey Lant, is a great place to start. And of course, I look at my very first introduction to copywriting was Dan Kennedy's book, The Ultimate Sales Letter, that I discovered back in 1991 maybe, or 1990. And his models of copywriting, the way that he treats copywriting has been amazing, and you can't go wrong looking at all of his collection. If I put like the Mount Rushmore of copywriting influences, I would put Dan Kennedy on that. I would put Jay Abraham on there. Jay Abraham more from a models and a strategy and a way of thinking. He's coming from that, outwardly focused, always make it a win for your prospect. But Gary Halbert Certainly, John Carlton. In 1996, I saw jumping ahead to a couple of pages here, I also got introduced to a gentleman called Brian Keith Voiles. And he's passed away a few years ago, but he was an amazing copywriter. He had a wonderful course called Ad Magic. And if you can find stuff online from Brian Keith Voiles, he's amazing. Some of his the letters that he wrote learned copywriting as a magician, doing things for doing birthday parties and that kind of stuff, and put all of his things together in a wonderful course called Ad Magic. But going down that path of copywriting will be the thing that will pay the most money. I would say almost every dollar that I have earned in the 30 plus years of having discovered it has come from something that I've written or something that I've said. And I count copy as just words that you're saying, whether it's on through speaking them, through writing them, through presenting them, whatever it is. It's one of those 4 cornerstones of being an enduring marketer. And this is a good start for you.